Welcome to my second video blog. Well, I was quite surprised I did the first one back in May, and I'm equally surprised I'm doing a second one. The first one I think got quite a nice response, so thank you very much to everyone who responded to that with their kind and generous comments. Very much appreciated. Again, I'm still not entirely sure what we're going to be doing here. There's always a thought when you're doing these kind of things that you want to sort of mix it up a little bit, do something a little bit different every now and then to keep your viewers, your friends, you are indeed, I hope, I can call you at least in some sense, social media, YouTube, internet friends, whatever the jargon is these days. So you always want to sort of keep it interesting for people rather than just a man sat here chatting about stuff which you've heard before. But regardless of that, I'm going to keep it very much the same as I did in the previous video. What I thought I'd start off with though is just some thoughts, because I know I'm kind of an irregular uploader of videos to YouTube. I certainly don't do the daily. I can't even, to be honest, be trusted with doing a weekly upload to YouTube. So I thought I might give some sort of background to my process, if you will, quite why my schedule is like it is. The first thing to say is YouTube is not my not a revenue earning stream for me. It's not something I do because that is my vocation, my job, whatever. I do have a full-time job, which means that I'm recording the videos and playing the games in the evenings after work and at the weekends, which means that I have to be kind of in a reasonably good mood and a good state of mind to actually record the videos and say anything sensible in the narration or commentary to them. And sometimes work gets in the way. You might have to work late, or there's a lot of stress and stuff involved. Sometimes happens. I do try and avoid stress, but sometimes it gets in the way. So there's a limited time for me to do the videos, and again I'm sometimes out in the evenings, going to theatre, as you know. I will be at weekends. I can be visiting friends or have friends come down and visit me, and again that takes out the opportunity of those days for recording videos. And certainly in June, at the end of May, June, a couple of very busy weekends where I didn't have time at all, and then in the last week or so we've had something, well, the only word for it is heat wave here in the UK. Temperatures well into the 80 degrees Fahrenheit during the day. And can you believe it? I mean, midnight, thereabouts, late night, 70 degrees centigrade temperatures. That's just outrageous, which meant it was kind of uncomfortable. In the UK we don't tend to have air conditioning or climate control or any of those funky fancy features in our houses that they do in some other countries where they're used to extended periods of extreme weather, high or low temperatures, like in certain states. In America, for example, we just don't have that. So if it's really hot, you just have to open the windows or close the curtains or whatever to keep your house cool. So it's a bit of a stress, and to be honest, yeah, recording videos in those conditions really didn't seem very pleasant. Sat in a small computer room doing that, it just really wasn't, I'm afraid, something I felt comfortable doing. It was just strength sapping. So that's why over this month there's been a bit of a delay between some of the videos in the series, for which I do apologise for that, but hopefully it will kind of make more sense. So on to the videos themselves. What have we seen? The Sims 3, my big series, the first series I started with, hit the watershed at last. It's kind of sad to say, but Carl is gone now, so we've come to the end of the Generation 3 story. Now it's time for Deborah, our Generation 4 heir, to take command of the household. And you may already have guessed it, but I will be open and honest and transparent with you. I did kind of force Carl off this earthly plane. I did use the age up cheat to send him on his way, to call in the Grim Reaper. He was getting in the way, I'm afraid. So it's a whole new story. I've posted an intro video, just sort of recap on where the family members are, who they are in the family now, and there'll be a new video in that series, hopefully up in the next day or two, So that's looking really good. I'm really excited to move forward with Generation 4 of the Sims 3 story. Sims 4, we're introducing the next part of the Living Off the Land challenge, which isn't just sort of growing your own vegetables and plants and stuff and earning enough to keep the house together from that, but also actually bringing up 3 children. So we've started that. Now, as you know, it's a gay couple. They got married, and so they can't, in the game at least, I don't know if there's a cheat where you can actually make men or have men have babies. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, we're not going down that route. They're adopting, so they've adopted their first child, Sadie. So this is going to be interesting. I've never played from babies up to adult in Sims 4. So this is going to be an interesting challenge for me to do. So again, that's looking quite fun. The slightly less fun news is this War of Mine. The series is coming to an end. I was considering do one very long sort of finale of the season kind of video for that, but I think I will break it still down into 2-day chunks, so there should be another 2 episodes of that to come up. But as you recall, after my last video update, the next video for this War of Mine, I got another of my survivors killed. That means that not one of the single 3 guys I had in the house to start with are still alive at the end of the series. Which is a shocking indictment of my gameplay, to be honest. Now, when I played it for real, well, for real, I'm always playing it for real, that's the way the game works. When I played it off camera as I got to know the game, I was reasonably good at the combat. I tended to survive. But obviously the complexities of having to talk through and watch what's going on, it's just got too much for my poor little brain here, and I just wasn't up to the combat. So unfortunately, we lost the 3rd member of our team in the episode. But we're now back to 3 members in the household, so hopefully that makes things a little bit easier. But as we'll see, I'm just trying to, probably going to play it safe, I'm afraid, to keep them alive until the end of the war, which should come in about 4 days' time, in game time, that is. And finally, of course, Transport Fever, that's chugging along quite nicely. We're expanding routes. We're now making enough money, I think, to get loans out, buy new vehicles, set down new routes, and then pay the money back within the year, kind of thing. So our debt on that is manageable, but it's not quite enough yet to really go for a big expansion push. I'm kind of looking forward to that, because I really want to sort of really extend the routes and get some really exciting vehicles on the road. But I just need to wait this period out, and the game will then get into a more modern era, and we'll get some really good new vehicles, expensive though they might be, but they should then, if I've got the foundations laid right, which I think I have at the moment, we should be looking forward to a profitable few years, a good few years of profit. Let's put it that way, in the game. In terms of new games, as I mentioned in the last video blog, I'm looking at a couple of new games which I purchased on the last Steam sale. One of which is 7 Days to Die, which is taking some getting used to. It's not a game type, the survival type game, first person type thing that I'm familiar with. And it's proving difficult for me to get to grips with the A, the controls, and B, actually getting through a whole day. So at the moment I've not actually managed from starting the game to get through a whole day without the zombies killing my character, which probably wouldn't make for a terribly entertaining or long series of videos. So give me a while, I'll try and get used to that and try and skill up a little bit, and I may bring that on as the 4th series to replace this War of Mine, possibly at the end of the month. We'll see how it goes. But unfortunately Steam have got another sale on at this very moment, their summer sale, and there's lots of fun things in that. So the temptation to go out there and spend a little bit more money and buy some funky new games, or games that are slightly older but now at a cheap price, I like cheap, as you know, is always there, it's ever present. So we shall see. What else have I been doing over this last month? As you may know, I'm a fan of real ale. I'm a beer drinker, out and proud. And one way I spend quite a few of my weekends is at beer festivals, and in beginning of June we had the joy of the Cambridge Beer Festival down there in Cambridge, the university town of Cambridge. It's an outdoor festival, big marquee, full of lots and lots of different beers and types, but a huge, great open field outside for enjoying and drinking and enjoying the sunshine and eating and so on. It was a great atmosphere. Beer festivals are great fun. If there's any anywhere near you, I do recommend them. They're not full of weird old men in sandals and with beards drinking strange beers and being terribly miserable and old-fashioned. These days they're full of life and fun. They're a vast age range. There's loads of great different styles of beer to try. They're very friendly. Many of them are very family friendly, so you can take your kids along as well. The Cambridge one was a bit like that. But yeah, if you've got preconceptions or prejudices about beer drinkers, just go and try them. Try a festival, preferably an outdoor one, because they're always the best fun if the weather's good. If the weather's less good, it's not quite so much fun, but hey-ho. And we're looking forward to some more later as we go through. Every month I've got at least one beer festival to go to, so I might report on that one in the next update. Anyway, the other thing I've been doing, as you know, I love going to the theatre. It's been an interesting month theatre-wise. Mostly the sort of small-scale indie things. Our Bath Arts Fringe was on last month, and that introduced a few new highlights. But one of the things I really love about theatre are the single, what are they called? I've forgotten, the one-man play. There's probably a real word for it, a proper term for it. There's something about, although the great sort of big show, the extravagance, the lights, the drama, the action can be really exciting and awe-inspiring. Some of the things I really love about great theatre, I hope I said this in the last video, is the storytelling, is understanding someone's story and getting to feel what they felt through their life or the tale that they're telling. And some of the best ways of doing that is just have one person on stage acting out or simply just telling the story. It can be really involving. You're just focusing on them, and you're listening intently to what they're saying, you're watching intently what they do, and if it's a good tale, and if they're really sort of getting into the heart of the story, then that transfers to you and it becomes a really moving, emotional experience. And we've had a couple of those. They weren't what I would call the most emotionally affecting performances, but they were nonetheless quite impressive in their own right. The first one, kind of really out there. It's called This Is Not, if I need to look this up, This Is Not Culturally Significant is the name of it. It's been through the fringes, through Edinburgh Fringe last year I think, and was on in London where I saw it. It's a one-man performance, and that man is completely naked. Yeah, which is an odd thing sometimes in theatre. Nudity in theatrical performances can be a bit awkward. If the actor sort of undressing feels a little uncomfortable, or they have to sort of do it in a certain way to sort of hide their bits or whatever, then that awkwardness sort of comes across the audience sometimes as well, and you feel awkward about it as well. Which if it's done well, as if it's a sort of a natural thing for them to do as that character, then the audience takes that on board, and yep, they're naked, whatever, that's what they would do in that situation. Now this man came on from the outset completely naked, and the first scene in this performance was him as a female webcam porn star performing a sex act, which was kind of weird. This naked man doing this act as a woman. It was bizarre. But the impressive thing though is the nudity doesn't matter. It was the stories he was telling. The whole point of it was a whole series of different vignettes, different stories from different people, a lot of them actually female, and it was telling their stories, their struggles through life. There's a lot of people who were having trouble, money, financial, sexual relationship problems, and he was telling their tales in very short, sharp segments throughout. There's a whole series of weird characters from, if you will, the underbelly of society that you don't normally see. And in a sense, the nakedness helped with that, because you weren't then wondering, who is this person wearing these clothes but telling that story? He would have to keep changing outfits and so on, and it would become distracting. But simply by changing the lighting, by changing his voice, by changing his bodily physical mannerisms, he became that person instantly, and you then got their take, what they were saying. So although it was perhaps difficult to connect with any one person, any one story, as an experience it really was quite extraordinary, and certainly something worth seeing. The other thing, another single man thing I saw was in Bath, from a small production company. In fact, a lot of the things I've seen this month have been from small companies, not large professional companies with large big name actors, but actors just out of drama school, or sort of setting up their own companies to produce their own work. And one of those came to the Bath Fringe Festival. It was called Bones. Again, I think it's been around various fringe festivals over the year. And it was a tale of a young father who's... In fact, was he a father? No, he's not a father. That was the whole confusing thing was. It was a story that started off with him and this child, this baby, in a pram, a walker, if you will. And the stress that baby was putting on his life, coping with the screaming of the child, it's constantly need to be fed and changed. And quite the kind of disturbing thing it started with was him thinking, if I just suffocated the baby, if I just killed the baby, that would solve all my problems. Of course it didn't, and he didn't, but it was kind of putting the audience at a sort of whole sense of unease to start with, which is a very dangerous and bold thing to do. But we get to understand his backstory, and in fact the baby isn't his, it's his mother's, so the young child is his sister. But we go through his life in a very poor part of whichever town it was, trying to live on benefits, struggling to make ends meet, and trying to make himself a person despite his background of this drunken mother and so on. A whole stream of people who weren't in his life, apart from a grandfather. And it tells a story of a day out, for example, at the seaside, where he bonds with his grandfather. And there's a whole great sort of story there about this man trying to coming to understand someone whose life has been so different to your own. I think it's one of the great powers of theatre, and that's what we got from that. And again, I'm not sure it was entirely necessary to the story, but again there was a point where this chap got naked while performing. Did I say it was a one-man show? It was, where he was sort of performing his half of a sex act, at which point he got naked, which was fun. The guy had a good body, so whatever. I'm not sure it was entirely necessary to the plot, but you know, we come to expect that in theatre. We shouldn't assume that everything is hidden. I think that was probably part of what was going on here. He was telling a story and exposing his life, and part of that was exposing the body as well. Now, if you remember in the last video, I mentioned a play I was going to see in Bath. I don't think it was part of the Fringe as such, but I was saying, I'm looking forward to this. It's being done by a company which I saw do something really great last year. It's funny how the mind plays tricks on you, isn't it? Because it wasn't. I've got two different memories of two different productions completely mixed up in my head. And this was an old play. It's an often performed production, Our Country's Good, about sort of the first colonies being set up in Australia, made up of military men as guards and governors of the population, and the criminals, the lowlifes, who've been exiled from England, being sent out, transported to Australia, and trying to set up a colony. Now, this production was in fact done by the Bath Theatre Students group, so some amateurs, some actually studying theatre and so on. So it's a mix of talents. And it was a really good production. It was done in a very small theatre in the round, so they were sort of in the centre of the audience. So we were three sides of them, whatever the term is for that. And again, it was really great actually. I've seen a professional production of this at the Old Vic in Bristol, where you're sat in a traditional theatre, backed from the stage, and being actually around it. Although the skills of the actors were perhaps less than you might expect from professional performers, or well-versed performers, there was a real sense of immediacy, and you got in touch with the characters, the viciousness of some of the officers, the dreams and ambitions of the more liberal intellectual officers trying to make good of these people, some of whom were there thousands of miles from home, merely for stealing an apple or some trivial crime like that, and trying to say these people could be good if we do something like, which was the whole point of this particular play, is put on a play within the colony. So actually get the criminals, as they were, to perform this production of a story. Again, it's not necessarily the best production I've seen, but it was really nicely done. And as I said, the intimacy of being in such a small theatre really helped with that. The next thing I saw was a very odd thing, again part of the Bath Fringe Festival, again from another small company of newly released actors, if you will, a small company set up in Birmingham, I think, no, Liverpool actually. I think they came from the Liverpool Theatre School. So they trained there, and they've set up their own company to do their own work. And this is a thing called, if I get the name right, I thought I might be Jet Li, brackets, but it turns out I'm not. The story of a pop star who's had his one-hit wonder and is now not the hit, he's not in the papers all the time, he's not the famous celebrity he wants to be. A very strange flatmate of his who wants to have a child, I'm not quite sure what the term was, they did say it, asexually, without the act of sex. And his assumption, which apparently is false, is that stick insects do this. Certain cells in their body will develop and create new life of their own without germination and so on that you get in the normal sexual reproduction. It turns out, in fact, stick insects don't do that at all. Now, stick insects are very dull creatures, so rather than buying a stick insect as a sort of... I'm not sure I can actually explain this. It was a really weird thing. He had a pet hamster, which was actually invisible, but they called it Michelle Obama. So they had all sorts of weird things going on in their relationship. And this poor faded pop star wanted to get back into the press again. He wanted to be famous again. And his chosen way of doing that was hiring a rent boy and then ringing up the paparazzi, the media, to say, if you come and arrive outside of my flat or this address at a certain time, you'll see a well-known pop star in flagrante or some other indiscreet pose with this rent boy. And of course the media never turned up, so his plans are dashed, and it's weird. And the rent boy is actually a philosophy student at a university, and the whole thing becomes a very wordy thing. So the whole point of the play became about discussing not so much who they were, but the relationships and the philosophy of I'm not quite sure what. It was very weird. But there's some plays, and this was one of them, where the wordplay is so impressive and so fluent. Although, if you try and think about it later, you think, I have no idea what that was about. In the moment, it really works. And that's what I got from this. It was one of those things where the flow, the enthusiasm for the words, and the philosophy of language was so impressive. You get caught up in it, and it became a beauty in its own right. It probably meant nothing, it probably said not a great deal, but it was great fun nonetheless while it was doing it. So yeah, some very odd stuff this month at the theatre. I've not got a great deal planned for this coming month. I am, in fact, in a few days off to the Old Vic again to see a production of Julius Caesar. And I'll tell more about that in the next video blog. Again, not a big show production of this Shakespeare classic, but it promises to be something quite interesting nonetheless. Anyway, I think I've talked for far too long already, and this is going to be an overly long video, for which I do apologise, unless you've enjoyed it, in which case, thank you so much for joining me. So yes, that's what I'll say right now. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed meeting me again for this little ramble through video games, beer and theatre. And I will try to do one again next month. It may be an odd time because I've got stuff scheduled for the end of next month, beginning of August, but we'll see how that pans out. But if you've enjoyed this video, please give us a like. If you have any thoughts, comments, anything you'd like to know about me, the games, the theatre, whatever, do leave us a comment in the boxes below. It's always great to hear from you. And of course, if you've not done so already, please do subscribe, and then you'll know as soon as I upload another video of me talking, or a more interesting, entertaining one of the video games in my Let's Play series. But from me, Ajaxpost, thank you so much again for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon. But until then, for now, bye bye.